Hey, everybody. Thanks again for joining us for this episode of The Bottom Line. I'm Lauren Kalil, and back on the show for our Wodapalooza preview, we have Patrick Clark, Brian Friend, and Chase Ingraham back for more. This time we're talking about the women. But first, Patrick Clark has another fabulous shirt on.
It's a great shirt.
You can't make this up.
Nope.
Okay, taking a look at the women's side. Yesterday, we talked about the men's field, pretty stacked. Brian even claimed that, there's people up to 10 spots away from the podium that could be in the top 5. Off the bat, are we seeing that the women's field is something similar, this stacked?
I would say not at all. There's not nearly the depth that there is on the men's field, but that doesn't mean that there's any shortage of interesting conversations, because like we talked about the men, there are a lot of women in this field who feel that they have the potential and are not very far away from reaching it to make it to the CrossFit Games, and will be looking to have a good weekend and take that confidence into the 2022 season.
Okay, so Chase, let's once again start with you on your top 3 podium picks on the women's side. The pressure is on.
So looking at the field, like Brian said, it's definitely not as deep as the men's field is as far as some of your more top echelon athletes. But if I go bottom up from third place, there's a few health concerns in there for some of the athletes that I was looking at. For me in third place, based off, if you look at the last 3 events that we've seen go on, including the CrossFit Games, Dubai, and the Rogue Invitational, you're almost the top 10 athletes in all of those are not in this competition. So next in line, when I was looking through that, is like, I really see Danielle Brandon, if healthy, have a shot at taking a third place position with the field that she's competing with. In second, I really like Emma Mcquaid to make some noise here in Wodapalooza. She's had a lot of good finishes over the last few events that she's registered and competed at. So I like her in that number 2 slot. And in number 1 slot, one who surprised everybody except maybe the underdog crew in a first place finish, that didn't get to compete at the CrossFit Games, that is probably looking to make up for that, is Bethany Shadburn. I think Bethany Shadburn has an opportunity. Again, health is being one of those, especially for her. And it's not even the COVID thing. It's like she's always had some lingering thing over the years that have derailed her season. And last year, it looked like she had shirted up. So I would like to see if Bethany Shadburn can take that first place position at Wodapalooza.
Chase, did you just read from my notes?
All right,
dude, is that what you had?
I guess we'll go right to Patrick.
I had some change.
Any quick changes?
Is this like a Patrick Swayze ditto moment?
Yeah, exactly. Ditto. Chase did bring up a good point about Danielle. I have kind of like a 3A, 3B between Danny Spiegel and Danielle. I think if Danielle's healthy, she's in that third spot. But I spent New Year's in Vegas. I spent it with the Underdogs crew. And, it's hard to tell. Danielle, just like, she's not really squatting heavy right now. Just kind of resting up that back, that she probably pushed herself a little bit more than she should have at Rogue. So even if she's there and healthy, I don't know if she's actually going to I don't know. You don't know if she's going to dial it back in some events, just so that way, knowing that the Open and the season's coming along. But, but I think Danny Spiegel is healthy, and she usually shows up at Miami. We all remember that handstand walk, snatch workout she did. Yeah, the snatch workout.
Wasn't on video, though.
No, it wasn't. Not on him. But I love that Emma Mcquaid pick. I really think, she had finished 12th at the games. It was just kind of under the radar. But she had a lot of top 10 finishes, and I think she had a second or third in one event. And then obviously Bethany. She changed a couple things. She's healthy. She's got her lungs back. She's recovered from COVID. She's changed some things in her training that I think will benefit her this year. And I really like that Bethany pick.
All right, Brian, do you have a similar stack, or are you completely different?
No, I mean, it's the women that are competing here, like Chase said, they're not the typical top 10 athletes. But when you look at how they did it at relevant competitions earlier in the season, we have some, there's a couple other people that I think need to be in the conversation that we haven't mentioned yet. my podium that I have projected is Bethany Shadburn in first, Sarah Sigmund's daughter, who no one's talked about yet, I guess, in second, and Emma Mcquaid third. I have Danielle Brandon fourth, just off the podium. Same reasons as you guys. I'm just not sure how healthy she is. But just outside of that, there's some women like Ariel Lowen, Emily Rolfe, Bailey Rail, who are all in the top 20 at the games, not too many points behind the likes of a Mcquaid and a Danielle Brandon, who are 11th and 12th. That I think will be interesting to watch and see if they can make a push and challenge some of the bigger names and back up their performance from the games this year.
What do you think it was specifically, Brian, about Sarah Sigmund's daughter performance at Dubai that really puts her in the podium contenders for you?
I think that in some ways, the testing that she underwent in Dubai was perfect in a way that she could never have planned for. The first day to have to run up and down in the snow like that is probably one of the scariest things to do, coming back to a competition setting after having a knee injury like that. And then to be able to not just do the movement that ultimately caused, or at least was like the last thing that happened before the injury in the split jerk, but also improve upon anything that you've been able to do since having that knee surgery. Feels like she just had the chance, because of the way the programming felt, to check two big boxes for her mentally and say, I can do this again. I do, and I feel okay, and I recovered from it. And I have, I talked to Snorri last week, and the whole team that she works with has evaluated everything between Dubai and Wodapalooza and made the decision to go forward and do this competition. I have to feel that with Max and Snorri and the PTs that she works with and everyone who wants to see her succeed, that they wouldn't be doing that irresponsibly. So my assumption is that she's healthy, and she's been at Wodapalooza before, and she's lost to Tia Toomey twice and Carrie Pierce once and beaten everyone else in the field. Like, she's very good in the sanctional circuit, sanctional setting, and I think that she'll be right in the mix.
One thing that I got to see in person was like she had that eye of the Viking, that what we're she had that back. She had that. She was like that Viking princess that she is, the ice queen or whatever you want to call her. She had that look, and it was there. And at no point did I see any fear, even when she was running down that mount, down that slope. But the rest of the competition, she looked like old Sarah, and it was impressive field that she was against.
What about dark horse picks or podium contenders that didn't quite make the top three? Chase, let's start with you.
Well, Brian put Sarah up there in the top three, and I'm still at a wait and see for Sarah. I know she got a lot of good confidence from Dubai, especially with everything that Brian listed. But with her, it's like, can she keep that, right? Is there going to be one thing that derails her weekend, which tends to happen for Sarah? Can she put together a clean run at Wodapalooza? So I'll be very curious to see how she handles the competition in a much bigger stage than she did have in Dubai. And then the other one is actually Emily Rolfe. I think she's one of those athletes that is very consistent, right? She's very consistent. We say her name a few times in events that she does well in, and she doesn't really have any major drop-offs in the ones that she doesn't succeed in. So I'd be curious to see what Emily Rolfe does this next weekend as well.
Patrick, who are yours?
I think I really only have one, and it's Sasha Nuevas. She's been basically implanted in Cookeville since the end of the games, working out with Rich, and and we didn't get to see her at the Mayhem Heat event that got canceled. So it just gave her another month to kind of train for Wodapalooza, and I'm really impressed by her. Obviously, she has that Olympic lifting background. She knows how to cycle a bar, but let's see how she does with obviously she's probably been doing a crap ton of GHDs. We don't know programming yet, but if it is, I'd imagine that she'd do well in that. But I think she's a dark horse, maybe not necessarily for the podium, but I think she's someone that we need to keep an eye on, at least contend for a top 5 spot and push some of those athletes.
I think I'll maybe take two. I think more likely to threaten for the podium of these two is Ariel Lowen. And, she's this woman that still is kind of a mystery to me. Like she very much, I think, surprised even herself at the semifinals. And then she backed that up at the games with what I thought was a very respectable performance against a strong women's field, taking 14th. But that's that semifinal performance that makes me wonder if she's, if I'm picking Saxon Patrick to make the podium here, why would I not pick Ariel Lowen? They had such similar performances at semifinals. And what I mean by that is exactly what Patrick talked about, is they didn't make any mistakes. She was right there all the time. And the person that's right there all the time, that's Pat Vellner in 2016 that no one knows about, but he's just 8th, 9th, 10th, 5th, 10th, 11th. Boom, he's 3rd at the end of the weekend. And I think that's potential for Ariel this time in Miami, which would be really cool. After her, and I think maybe a little bit more of a question mark, but I'm looking for her to eventually make a breakthrough move, is Fee Sagafi. She's just kind of that 7th and 8th place all the time in the events that matter the most, which is very, very good. But you know that she wants to make that next step. So can she squeeze out a 4th? Can she squeeze out a 5th and just use that as the next stepping stone to get where she wants to go?
When it comes to the women's field, what is the bottom line?
I'll start with this one.
Yep, deep thought right now.
No, I'm going to give these guys some time to think here, because I don't think they're going to think what my bottom line is. Looking at that list of athletes competing, teenagers. And it's not the teenagers we're typically used to seeing, like the Mal O'Briens, the Emma Careys. You see like Olivia Sulik, Powers, Annika Grier. I'm interested to see how they do, especially Annika Grier and Olivia Sulik. Annika Grier is one of these athletes. She never got to compete at the games as a teen athlete. She had those opportunities taken away because of COVID, but yet she turned around and I think she finished 6th in the Atlas Games. So she was one spot away from qualifying for the games as an 18-year-old. So now she's 19. I like to see how she does in a live competition against these women that she idolizes, very much like what Emma Lawson did at Dubai. So I'm looking for that. Who's going to have their Emma Lawson moment at this particular competition? And there's an impressive list. Moose Brugger's another one that comes to mind. She's 20, but and then Kayla Stefano. When is Kayla Stefano? Kayla Stefano is the one that beat Haley Adams in 2017 for the 16 to 17-year-old title, but hasn't really progressed like Haley has. But that's my bottom line. How the next wave of teenagers and 20-year-olds, how they form at this live competition.
Got to keep an eye on them.
Chase, you ready?
Oh yeah, I'll go. For me, it's which athlete is ready to make a name for themselves. Because you have all these ones that are knocking on the doors, just missed off the podium, the youth that even Patrick's talking about. And is someone willing to go out there and make a splash? Who's going to be the next Sarah Sigmundsdottir that had a crazy offseason and then came to the games and podiumed in her first trip there? So, with the field that we have, I'm curious to see who actually is going to take advantage of this opportunity, because there isn't a huge deep field all the way down top 10 like we saw on the men's side. So which one of these athletes who are real fringe is willing to or wanting to make a name for themselves this weekend? So that's what I'm looking forward to.
I think I'm going to kind of do the reverse of what happened yesterday and kind of hone in on one athlete here like Patrick did at the end of this segment. For me, the bottom line is, how good is Bethany Shadburn? Because I think everyone had that question going into the games and we didn't get it answered. And in this field, obviously, she's not the same caliber of athletes or depth of field that you'd have at the games. But if she's as good as a lot of people think she are, and I think that she certainly can be, then she shouldn't only win this competition, but it should, her and maybe one other woman should be separating themselves from everyone else.
All right, Patrick, Brian, and Chase, thanks for joining us for another episode of The Bottom Line, previewing Wodapalooza. We have one more day before all the action starts. We'll see you back tomorrow. We're even going to preview some teams. See you then, guys.
#FatBoyGang.